Hello everybody. I am Dr. Anil Sangli, consultant neuro and spine surgeon. I have with me Mr. S. Sripad, who is a certified financial planning professional and an advocate. In the last session, we had discussed about the various neurological conditions and the traumatic brain injury of a 12-year-old child, for which a very good compensation was given by the Honorable Supreme Court. Well, if a child has a neurological ailment, it is a very common presumption by the parent that we can look after the child with a lot of love and affection as long as we are alive. But what happens after us? Will somebody else take care of our children with the same love and affection? Will those children be able to sustain on their own, whether it be financially or whether it be in the form of taking care of themselves? Well, I would like to ask Mr. Sripad about what are all the different types of financial planning and legal planning issues that are prevalent in various neurological conditions and how to go about these things in patients who are having neurological ailments, whether be it a congenital or something acquired during the course of the process of development. Mr. Sripad, can you let me know how to plan the future for this child, especially financially, in a child who has got neurological ailments?
Thank you, Dr. Anil. The financial planning aspect consists not only of the finances, but also it involves the psychological preparation of the parents or those who are looking after the child, because we are concentrating on the disabilities in the children. Now, one needs to go or they have to do an ongoing assessment of the child's functional and cognitive abilities. This is one thing. That is, each day they have to maintain a diary as if it is a daily routine, and they have to see whether there is any development over a period of time. That can be assessed easily if they maintain a diary. And we have one thing known as legal guardianship. This is I'm taking from the legal point of view. Though parents are the natural guardians of a child, until it attains the age of majority, that is up to 18 years.
18 years.
And usually they take care of the child. But once it attains the age of majority, there have to be a legal process which is known as the legal guardianship.
Mm-hmm.
And if the parents are alive, they will be the natural legal guardians. But there might be certain circumstances when you don't have any family member to look after a child. Probably the father and mother or the parents are not there, they are not alive, something like that, whatever the reason. And if a person has to be a guardian, two things are very important. Whether the guardian is in charge of the person or whether the guardian is in charge of the person and the property of the child.
Mm-hmm.
And there might be certain special situation like where the child is suffering from autism, cerebral palsy, mental retardation, multiple disabilities, etc. And guardianship is not only required only to take care of the child, but it is also required, that is, a guardian has to be appointed to take care of the investments that have to be made in the name of the child and managing the investments. These are all certain important aspects which the parents have to decide in order to give a better life to the child, because it's not a one-day thing. It goes on for the whole life. And as you said, parents may not be alive after a few decades. So who will take care of the child? That is the main thing that comes into the mind of many parents. And in certain cases, the family members trust only their immediate relatives. And in certain cases, there might not be any relatives at all to take care of the child. So one of the good option is that there might be a trust that can be opened by the parents for the purpose of the child. And this can be done either through an NGO, or that is they can hand over the trust properties to an NGO, which is a recognized institution, or they might have a private trust of their own, wherein they give all the facilities to the child through the trust. So these are some of the options. And for purpose of legal guardianship, who are eligible to act as guardians? That is one of the important questions. So the disabled person's relative, maybe the sibling, maybe the grandfather, grandmother, uncles and aunts. These are all the people who can act as guardians. And there are certain registered organizations also. And certain people who have children suffering from these illnesses or ailments, they form a group of their own. And these people register a parents association who take care of their immediate children. And for this, there are certain legal formalities, like they have to fill up Form A for applying to a local level committee, which may be done by the patient or the relative of the patient, and Form B for confirmation of appointment of a guardian.
This is for
A registered organization.
any registered
A
organization.
registered organization to look take care of the child.
Okay.
So it may be a parents association or a registered organization which is already in existence. The procedure for Form A and Form B is for a new organization that is to be set up. And an NGO may also be set up for this purpose. And in this,
the various options, like one is the legal guardianship. The legal guardian can be anybody, either
the parents,
or
natural guardians,
grandparents, or the uncles, aunts, anybody.
Yeah.
And it can be in the form of an NGO, where they can fill a form and then get into the NGO, or they can form a trust. And if they form a trust, then it should be either handed over to an NGO, or it can be a private trust.
Private trust will be a separate.
Or a private trust.
Yeah,
and this trust can be managed by a trustee who will be looking
at the normal trust procedures for establishing the trust.
Or it can be an organization where all the parents form together with respect to child. For example, if the child with mental disabilities, like autistic children, or if it is sort of a mental disability secondary to dementia, or mental retardation, all these things, each and every group of these type of patients,
they can join
will
together,
have their own organizations, and they can form a group and organization, so that after the parents, and if nobody is alive or there is no caretaker,
some other person will be there.
These children can be taken care of by the organization.
Yes, and the forms are there to record the details of the persons. That is, who is the person suffering from disability, that is the name, age, sex, etc. And who is being appointed as a proposed guardian, the name, age, address, etc. The normal procedures that is required. Then what is the nature of guardianship required? As I told you that whether the guardianship is only for the person or
the property and the
person and property. Okay. And person and property is required mainly where a child is suffering from mental retardation. Otherwise, normally it will be only for the guardianship of the person. Okay. And there should be 2 witnesses, and the consent of the person who is acting as a guardian, that also has to be taken. These are the legal formalities.
Do they need to take any court's permission for this? Court appointed guardian?
No, they have a committee, legal, that is the local committees from which they can obtain permission. And this is the normal procedure which they have to follow in order to open such organization.
Okay.
And coming to the savings part, you know that once a child is impacted with such illnesses which are grave in nature, it affects the finances of the family. So the Income Tax Act has given certain concessions, which include the main 3 sections under which certain amount of savings, or you can say that whatever has been expended, to a certain extent you can claim as deductions from the income tax include Section 80DD, Section 80DDB and Section 80U. So Section 80DD is the maintenance which includes medical treatment of disabled dependent. I'll repeat, disabled dependent DD. So that is 80DD. And if it is Section 80DDB, under this, the medical treatment of self or the dependent.
Okay, both it will happen.
Yeah. And in under 80U, it is maintenance including medical treatment of disabled assessee, that is the self. Maintenance including medical treatment. Okay. So the maintenance of one, if
so
the person
is important, because as the child grows, the parent also becomes aged, and it is not uncommon that the parent also has an ailment, whether they have a chronic ailment. So they have to spend money for themselves, also look after themselves and look after the child.
Yeah.
So this tax rebate is a very good one.
Yeah, and the applicability is for all resident individuals and HUF in case of 80DD and 80DDB. And 80U is only for resident individual.
Okay.
And apart from this, what is the total amount that can be claimed from the total expenses is under 80DD. You can claim up to 1.25 lakh if it is severe disability, and 75,000
per annum.
per annum, and 75,000 it's not so severe. And under 80DDB, it is 1 lakh for senior citizens, that is those who are above the age of 60 years or more, and 40,000 for citizens who are less than 60 years under section 80DDB. So this is the total deduction.
You will have to claim each one separately, or can you take all the rebates together? Is it possible?
No, as I told you earlier,
for 80D, 80DB and all those things together can simultaneously can you take?
No, yeah, see, 80DD is for medical treatment of disabled dependent only.
Okay.
80DDB is for self and dependent. So if you
avail 80DD, you cannot avail 80DD.
Because it is self and dependent, and there are certain criteria. I'll just go to that. And section 80U, you have 1.25 in case of severe disability and 75,000 in case of non-severe disability. And the neurological conditions that are given under the income tax, wherein you can claim concessions, are dementia, then you have the dystonia musculorum deformans, then the motor neuron disease, then ataxia, chorea, then aphasia, Parkinson's disease.
These are all chronic ailments.
Chronic ailments,
neurological ailments requiring a lot of
and 80DDB is given only on the basis of actual expenses incurred. So it's not the whole thing that you can claim. So if your actual treatment or expenses are lower than the amount specified under the Act, then your tax deduction will be limited only to the extent of actual expense. So you asked whether you can claim both. So under 80DDB, which is medical treatment of self or dependent, you are claiming the actual expenses. You can't claim the maximum that has been given. But in the case of 80DD and 80U, the deduction is obtained irrespective of your actual expense. So under 80DD and 80U, what is the total amount that you can claim is 1.25 in case of non-severe and 75 in case of 1.25 in case of severe and 75,000 in case of non-severe. 80DD, 80U is 1.25 and 75,000 again severe and non-severe. So 80DDB is only, I repeat, only for the actual expenses. For example, if you have spent only 20,000, you have to claim only 20,000, not beyond that.
See, suppose a child does not require any active medical management. It may be on certain drugs, or it may be on some sort of a physiotherapy medications. But a caretaker needs to be paid. The daily expenses of the child for looking after the child's daily needs have to be catered to. And in such instances, can you claim this? Will it be an expense, or because you are talking of expense, which is a medical expense in the hospital, or is just a general expense?
See, if it is maintenance including medical treatment, you can go under 80U.
Okay.
And if it is medical treatment only, then you have to go to 80DDB.
That means it is admitted to a hospital and taken treatment, then you can
and maintenance including medical treatment of disabled dependent only.
Okay.
That is 80DD.
Okay. So there are different provisions for each.
Yeah. If it is 80DDB, you can go for self as well as dependent, but both are medical treatment only. That is for both of them.
They have to look into things whether it's only a maintenance issue, that is without any any admission to the hospital, medical treatment or expenses incurred due to drugs or something like that, which can be claimed under one's heading. And if it is only maintenance of self or the particular dependent, it will be different.
Not only that, under 80U, it can be only individual who can claim.
Okay, who is the individual for?
Any individual means a person, natural person. It is the self-assessee.
Assessee
can claim.
Not the patient.
No, but under 80DD and 80DDB, both resident individuals as well as a HF, that is a Hindu undivided family, that is a parent can claim on behalf of the child.
Okay.
So these nuances have to be known before claiming the deductions. And the disability needs to be at least 40%.
Oh.
So only, I'm talking only of the neurological...
all these neurological conditions, there should be a minimum of 40% disability. This can be assessed by a neurologist or a neurosurgeon.
No, neurologist, that has been stated in the Act. So, and this includes, in cases of other ailments, urologist, oncologist, and other things for
Depending
other
on the
places.
required
Yeah,
requirement.
I'm talking only of neurology. It's neurologist. Then it may be from immunologist, hematologist.
No, that depends on the different type of a problem, which is a permanent.
No, you have got concessions for other medical ailments also.
Or it can be an overlapping ailment also.
Yeah.
One person having different types of.
Yeah, so for purposes of neurology, you have to get the
Yes.
and the disability, as I told you, should be at least 40%. And if you get the benefits under Section 80DD and 80U, you're not getting any concession or deduction under Section 80DDB.
So they're not mutually exclusive.
Yeah. And apart from this, the parents have to make budgets for the maintenance of the child for the future. And they have to, one of the important thing is they have to maintain a diary, as I told you earlier. And that diary should also mention whether they are allergic to certain medications
All
or something
the,
like that.
all the medical aspects.
And
of the child.
including the psychological aspects, like whether they fear something, and some children they fear shadow, and is it continuing even in his adulthood or something like that.
The
So
specific intricacies of the particular ailment.
that is that particular child or the patient, and you have to have your home secured also, because you can't keep on paying rents and also maintaining the child and maintaining yourself and also save for the future. All these things are a big problem. So better to have a home as early as possible, even if it's a small home. At least you'll be having a roof over your head.
If you have a trust, or if you have some sort of a relation with an NGO where you will have a monthly expense, after the patient or parent dies and the child is left alone, the child will be taken care of by the trust or by the NGO. And if there is an additional expenditure over a period of time due to inflation, will that care also will that also be have to be taken care of by this thing?
That has to be taken care of. But if they form their organization, it doesn't include anything such as inflation or something like that. Because whatever expenses are there, it has to be taken care of by the trust. So there might be donations, and those who are looking after, they can
trust will sustain on its own with lot of donations.
on its own, and they can also obtain as a normal trust. They can obtain donations from others, so as to make it sustainable. And another thing is the power of attorney. Power of attorney may be given for certain, for example, if the parent is himself or herself in a condition where they cannot take care of the child. And if the child has to be taken care of, including the finances and the medical expenses and other things, and if they are not able to do all these works, they can ensure that a power of attorney takes care of all these
So
things
they
for
are
the child.
delegating that particular responsibility to
the person
who is given a power of attorney.
Yes.
Okay.
So these are certain aspects that the parents and the children, that is the family members, have to take care, especially if it's a case of a child.
Yes. Thank you very much, Shripad. You have very clearly explained various types of neurological problems, the abilities of the disabilities, the abilities of the parents, and the way in which these things have to be catered to in the form of a trust or a legal organization or in the form of an NGO, and the percentage of the disability, which should be 40%, and how to go about taking income tax rebate so that you are also not burdened by the tax as well as by this particular problem.
Yeah. And the amount, what you say, what you don't expend or what you claim as deduction is a form of saving.
Correct.
That may be treated as a form of saving, which forms part of financial planning. And apart from that, if there are any conditions that, as I mentioned yesterday, if there is any condition where you can claim compensation through the courts, you can certainly claim compensation, and that will be an additional source of money for those who are taking care of the child with such ailments.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.